How would we think about the United States today if it weren't in North America, but South America, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, or another place Trump may deliriously blame for giving him COVID? The US is claimed to be the world's arbiter of democracy, deciding which countries are living up to democratic standards, which are run by dictators, which are failed states, and even which ones need humanitarian intervention, oftentimes with little regard to humanity. But what happens when the US starts to act more and more like the very countries it's called failing? I'm Francesca Fiorentini, and there's an undemocratic dictatorship in the Americas. Only this time, the call is coming from inside the house. So, Trump has the coronavirus, as do multiple administration officials in what the internet is calling the Republican Red Wedding. Only if the Red Wedding weren't at all surprising, because Lord Walter Frey just kept saying, "Can't wait to murder your entire family, Robb Stark," let's say around season 3, episode 9, while Robb Stark keeps pushing hydroxychloroquine as a cure for stab wounds. And when it comes to America's commander-in-chief, who knows how Trump is actually doing versus how he wants you to think he thinks you think he's doing? What? In the past, other American presidents have hid their illnesses too, but the bizarrely rosy assessment of our dear leader's health fits perfectly into this episode, which is about how the US is behaving exactly how it's always accused strongmen abroad of behaving.
It's like something out of North Korea. The dear leader comes out, right, with the magnificent helicopter entrance and up the stairs and off goes the mask.
Everything's fine, everything's normal. But that's not the only way America looks more and more like the countries we love to scold. Let's get into it. The Trump regime has appointed the leader's daughter and son-in-law, heir to a real estate empire and newspaperman, as top advisors. The United States has often pointed to family members being part of a government as a sign of a country's lack of democracy. Like in Iraq. Remember how once the US stopped supporting Saddam Hussein, it zeroed in not just on him, but his sons, Uday and Qusay?
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours.
The last thing we need is some idiot fail-son to take control of a country. Trust me, it will not end well. When the US toppled the Iraqi government, it raided the sons' palaces, and troops found, among other things, live leopards, a passion they clearly shared with their American counterparts, Uday and Qusay Trump. Of course, from the look of things, the Trumps are much more Joe Exotic, while Uday and Qusay are clearly the Carole Baskin of big cat pedagogy. The real heir, of course, is Ivanka, and Trump appointing her as senior advisor and Jared as Middle East peace broker reeks of the very anti-democratic dynasties Americans love to criticize. And it also leads to incredibly cringy moments like this one from the G20, when Ivanka inserted herself into a high-level conversation with heads of state.
Once you start talking about the economic aspect of it, though,
Yeah.
a lot of people start listening who wouldn't
Start
otherwise
listening.
listen.
And the same with the defense side of it.
Yeah.
In terms of the whole sort of ecosystem, it's been very male dominated. So,
Oh God, please stop. Did you just say very male dominated? You're the spawn of patriarchy itself. That conversation probably just continued like, so we're like all your dad's presidents, or... There are widespread reports of cabinet officials buying their positions in the former British colony, the United States. Ministers of the Trump regime, including the leader himself, have reportedly used their public positions as a means toward personal enrichment. When we think of government corruption, we might think about Nigeria or Mexico. We usually never think about the legalized corruption in the United States, like billions in dark money funneling from corporations to politicians thanks to Citizens United. Still, our corruption as of late has been taking on a less buttoned-up crookedness, like how the president has continued to break US law and make money from his business empire, renting condos to world leaders and insisting on US officials staying in his overpriced golf resorts while on business, like when Mike Pence was in Ireland. Although apparently that Trump hotel in Ireland isn't all that bad according to TripAdvisor. One reviewer says the Wi-Fi works sometimes, and if you're a quote keen masochist who doesn't care about costs, you should definitely stay there. And if you're working for Trump, man, you fit the bill. Trump donors have also been rewarded with powerful positions in his cabinet, like Louis DeJoy, who's donated $1.2 million to the Trump campaign since 2016 and is now Postmaster General. He and his wife have tens of millions of dollars worth of investments in companies that do business with the USPS, companies that are probably doing incredibly well right now, while your mail-in ballot is being slow-walked by a deputized possum to its final destination, a nest of mail-in ballots. The rampant corruption of the Trump administration brings to mind the government of Vladimir Putin, where, according to one author, more than half of the $50 billion spent on the 2014 Sochi Olympics simply disappeared into the pockets of Putin's cronies. But Trump loves Russia, so what about, according to him, a shithole country? Trump's administration shares a lot in common with former dictator Mobutu of the Congo. Mobutu embezzled $5 billion from his own country as he plunged it into cycles of extreme debt, poverty, and violence, and yet threw his daughter a wedding with a $65,000 cake. And if that's anything like spending $70,000 on your hair, it was disgusting. The American leader Donald Trump once again stoked violence between ethnic factions in the United States, appealing to Americans of European descent. The president has also failed to condemn violence against descendants of the American slave trade and directed chants of "send them back" at congresspeople of non-Western heritage. Every demagogue needs an enemy, and ethno-nationalism, or equating a race and religion with citizenship, is a perfect way to do it. Trump stoking anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic, and anti-immigrant violence echoes India's Narendra Modi, who systematically stoked violence against the country's Muslim minority, which sounds upsettingly familiar to the hat tip Trump continues to give white supremacists.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists?
What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
How is he physically unable to lie about this one thing? It's like Trump is living the exact premise of Liar Liar, except only when it comes to his tacit support of Nazis. I condemn the proud black people. I hate all white soup. I hate white soup, it's clam chowder, it's bad. Donald J. Trump hereby renounces the support of former KKK leader David Duchovny. Beyond stoking violence, there's actual state violence against ethnic minorities, like in China, where officials have denied the existence of massive camps for the Uyghur population, with some pretty pathetic responses.
This is almost certainly over Xinjiang. Can you tell us what is happening here?
This is not the first time you show me. I still remember last year you showed me what is happening in Xinjiang.
In Xinjiang, exactly.
But let me tell you this. Xinjiang, have you been to Xinjiang yourself?
No, I never have.
You know, Xinjiang is regarded as the most beautiful place in Xinjiang. There's a Chinese saying, you do not know how big China is.
Ambassador, that is not beautiful coverage, however, is it?
But have you seen Mulan? That was also shot in Xinjiang. Did you know they had to CG a lake over a shot of a massive prison? Damn it. And while ICE detention centers are a far cry from those Uyghur camps, that's not for lack of trying. According to Human Rights Watch, Trump's immigration policies have violated international laws on asylum, and that the rising number of deaths in detention facilities have been due to a lack of proper medical care. On top of that, we now know, thanks to a whistleblower, that women in ICE custody have been subjected to non-consensual hysterectomies, which sounds a lot like the forced sterilization the Chinese government subjects the Uyghurs to. Or in the words of the FLOTUS, give me a f***ing break. Whether or not it should have, the US has led so-called humanitarian intervention into countries over the mistreatment of ethnic minorities, like the US-led war on Serbia over its brutal treatment of ethnic Albanians. With the US doing the same now, who's gonna lead humanitarian intervention here? And can it be Denmark? Please, I just really want to be occupied by a country with universal health care and Legoland. Take the reins, Danes! The American ruler has deployed the National Guard as well as a paramilitary unit of the Department of Homeland Security to crack down on political dissidents protesting the treatment of ethnic minorities. We're not used to thinking about American law enforcement in terms of paramilitary forces or secret police units, but how else do you describe BORTAC, a DHS Border Patrol tactical unit that is allowed to operate within 100 miles of any US border, creating what the ACLU has called a constitution-free zone. BORTAC has been seen targeting Black Lives Matter activists in places like Portland, sweeping them into unmarked vans, which must have made for super awkward conversation at the Enterprise car rental. Well, looks like you boys are gonna have some fun tonight, violating civil rights. All right. It's all reminiscent of the systematic secret disappearing of political dissidents during the dirty wars of the military junta in Argentina or Pinochet's Chile. Many autocrats and strongmen have had secret police that target activists specifically. Hitler had the Gestapo, Mussolini had the Squadrismo, and Ellen DeGeneres has the Porsche di Rossi, the most fearsome of all. Trump is more like Haiti's former despots Papa Doc and Baby Doc Duvalier, both of whom the US propped up for years and who had a private militia called the Tonton Macoute, a violent gang named after the myth of a boogeyman who punishes bad children. Meanwhile, Trump is the Proud Boys, a violent gang named after the myth that anyone's ever been proud of them. The Trump regime continues purging opposition figures from within its own cabinet. There's no such thing as constructive criticism when you don't believe in democracy. There are only loyalists and people who used to be loyalists but didn't want to go down with the ship, so they Billy Zane their way into a book deal. That's why political purges are a telltale sign your country is anti-democratic, like in 2017 when Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia arrested ministers, princes, and billionaires in order to consolidate power. Some were even members of his own family, which must have made for a super awkward family barbecue. Okay, who wants to play pin the crime on the uncle? And in the US, the countless resignations, reassignments, and firings have made it clear Trump's goal is to consolidate power, especially when he's fired the very watchdogs who are supposed to make sure we don't become a country that consolidates too much power.
4 inspector generals have been removed by Trump just in a little over a month.
Cool. Trump has utilized the Justice Department and loyalist William Barr to pardon his allies and former associates under criminal indictment. Autocrats guarantee absolute loyalty by controlling the justice system, and William Barr has been a willing attack dog. Currently, he's trying to undermine the election to help Trump win, according to 1,600 former DOJ staffers. Barr has also gone after anyone who has dared try and hold the president or his cronies accountable, pardoning his stooges like real-life Batman villain Roger Stone. The Trump administration is acting exactly like the Maduro government in Venezuela. You know, the regime his administration spent much of last year trying to topple. There, the Supreme Court, which is packed with Maduro loyalists, voted to dissolve opposition parties. Here, Trump is hoping to pack his Supreme Court in time to rule in favor on what he hopes will be another too close to call better stop counting these ballots and put it to the courts election. The only reason the Trump administration should want to topple Maduro is out of jealousy. The leader of the formerly free world has refused to commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses his seat in November. This comes after months of claiming without evidence that mail-in ballots, which are used all over the world, are fraudulent. My God, this is where we are. Look, it's no secret our democracy wasn't functioning great to begin with, but this feels new.
Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transfer of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation.
Get rid of the ballots and you'll have a continuation? This is where we are, people. The shining city on a hill has completely slid off that hill. We're now in North Korea territory, or even just on the level of Chinese President Xi Jinping, who used Parliament to extend his term limit indefinitely. And I guess Trump got a little jealous.
Don't forget, China's great, and Xi is a great gentleman. He's now president for life. We'll have to give that a shot someday.
Wow, Trump is killing both the crowd and democracy. He's like an authoritarian Andrew Dice Clay. Hickory dickory dock. Democracy is a crock. This isn't mysterious. I'm being serious, yet you laugh whenever I talk. Oh! The most ironic part about the United States acting like the places in which we've supported coups and dictatorships is we're staring one down in our very own country. And you'd think, after all the practice abroad, we'd know how to stop it. It's time to start seeing our situation from outside our borders, from countries who now say they feel sorry for us. They should know. Some have experienced coups, and some thanks to us. The facts are clear. We have a president who uses his office to make him and his family millions, blames people of color and immigrants for America's problems, all while using the Justice Department and the courts not just to get away with it, but to try and remain in power. Maybe the lesson here is what we've always known. Americans should take care of our own democracy before starting to try and spread it. We need all the democracy we can get. In fact, can we have some of it back? Also, if Denmark is listening, please invade. Do you guys even have an army? It's made of Legos, damn it! Thanks for watching Newsbroke. Make sure to subscribe to AJ Plus and follow us on all the platforms, and let us know in the comments below what other parallels you've noticed between the United States now and dictatorships or authoritarians in times past or currently. And do you live outside of the States? Has your country ever gone through something like this right now? Please send us tips. We're soliciting.